Stay tuned after the feature for a special presentation. Spoilers ahead.
Nothing says Christmas like a special episode of Doctor Who. The UK tradition of gathering round the TV to watch ye old holiday special has gone global, and even a grumpy old deist such as myself puts aside their Christmas cynicism when the halls are decked and that theme song starts to play. Even on years such as this one where there's no new special, I always pop in the DVDs to revisit classics like The Snowman, Voyage of the Damned, and Christmas Invasion. To the surprise of many, I actually watch The Next Doctor every single year. Why? It's certainly not just to hear this line.
Jackson, if anyone had to be the Doctor, I'm glad it was you.
These episodes have a distinctly British charm about them, and they represent a collective and enduring love for the show. Every fan has their favorite of these episodes, and each of these episodes adds to the emotional wealth of the show overall. And I anticipate that will also be true for the upcoming 2026 Christmas special. Now, there has been a lot of talk about what that episode will be, from fan theories to industry breakdowns to well-respected channels misreporting on AI set photos, but most of these people seem to focus their attention on the story beats which were left unresolved from the last 2.5 seasons, to the logistics which would make it possible or impossible for certain actors to come back and reprise certain roles. But I'd like to approach the subject from a completely different angle. Rather than asking questions like, what is the nature of Billie Piper's character, or which doctors might cameo, or how will it tie up which loose ends, I want to know instead, how will this episode function specifically as a Christmas special? Merry Christmas, YouTube, and welcome to the All Trades Jack channel. I am the titular titillating Jack, and I'm back with another Who-SA from the USA. In this series, I, a big-headed and uninformed American, speak ad nauseum about the British cultural institution that is Doctor Who, all while trying not to become an enemy of the crown. Today's Who-SA? What is the nature of a Doctor Who Christmas special? And what can that tell us about the one that's coming up next year? These special episodes run the gamut in both genre and tone, and they serve their own functions within the series as well. They've been written like family-friendly dramedies, disaster films, superhero epics, existential thought experiments, and buddy cop adventures. Some function as a season opener, while others close out series-long arcs, and others are standalone stories which fill in the gaps between seasons. Often, they're used to tell stories with major developments for the titular character. However, they are just as likely to be silly romps with no real stakes or impact on the wider show. With such a wide range of possibilities, it may seem as though exploring this topic would be fruitless for the purpose of determining what the 2026 special will be. But as we look closer, you will see that what a Christmas special is capable of being is less manifold than it appears on the surface. I'm going to start by going over the broad categories of Christmas specials as I see them, and narrow in on what the episodes in each categories have in common to see what patterns start to emerge. Based on that, we will try to determine which category the new special will fall into, and what the implications that has on what that episode's potential story could be and what its potential plot could be. And with that said, let's begin. There are many ways that we could categorize these episodes, and they wouldn't all apply uniformly. What I mean by that is, two episodes that share one category may also fit into a second and third category that the other does not. For instance, both The Return of Dr. Mysterio and The Next Doctor could be classified as gap episodes, which bridge seasons, but one is predominantly a comedy in the superhero genre, and the other is more of a drama with an action horror backdrop. So this means we'll need to be a little bit more discerning and handle the subject with nuance if we're going to glean any useful information to make predictions about next year's big special. We'll be categorizing episodes based on their genre and tone, their placement within the series, their function as it relates to the development and growth of characters, and of course their relationship to Christmas. Now, we won't have time to break down every episode in the way it falls into each of these categories, so we're going to kind of go one major category at a time and eliminate stories out that are less relevant and kind of zero in on the ones that are more relevant to the 2026 special specifically. So we will break down these categories more as we get to each, and we'll use chapter titles to keep it as concise as possible if you want to jump ahead. But let's start with maybe the easiest distinction to make, which is this: is it a Christmas episode? Strange as it may seem, not all of them are. And even those which are Christmas adjacent or which take place on Christmas or have the aesthetics of Christmas don't necessarily engage with the themes or the trappings of a Christmas story. Regarding this distinction, there are three kind of general categories that these episodes fall into, which are definitive Christmas episodes, the Christmas adjacent episodes, and then those which are fully agnostic. You know a definitive Christmas special when you see it. There will be mall Santas running about, or maybe actual Santa Claus himself. Christmas music will be heard throughout the episode, and people might be seen opening presents or Christmas crackers. Someone may give a rousing speech full of hope and optimism, tinged with a little Christmas cheer, and maybe they even reference a story from the Bible. Lastly, a definitive Christmas episode usually takes place on or very near Christmas, which probably could go without saying. However, not every definitive Christmas episode is a Christmas special, so The Waters of Mars and The Unquiet Dead won't make this list. Sorry, Charlie. With those distinctions in mind, we can say that the following episodes are definitive Christmas episodes for the following reasons: The Christmas Invasion for Robot Santas, A Big Christmas Day Speech, and families gathered for the holidays to open presents by the tree. Not too close to the tree, of course. The Runaway Bride for more Santa robots, The Christmas Star, and for an accurate depiction of your family at Christmas. Voyage of the Damned for Killer Angels, The Gift of Giving, and Forgiveness as themes throughout, and for the retelling of the First Christmas. No, not that one, the real telling of the First Christmas.
Now, human beings worship the great god Santa, a creature with fearsome claws, and his wife Mary. And every Christmas Eve, the people of UK go to war with the country of Turkey. They then eat the turkey people for Christmas dinner, like savages.
Excuse me?
Then there's A Christmas Carol for the Scrooge bad guy, the many scenes of Christmas morning, and the general message of forgiveness and empathy for your fellow fella. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe for the Narnia in a gift box setting, the trope of soldiers trying to get home for the holidays, and for their mother's conflict over how grief will forever change the meaning of Christmas for her children. Last Christmas for literal Santa Claus, and Joy to the World for literal baby Jesus. Now, let's look at a few that you may have thought should have made this list, but didn't. These are the Christmas adjacent episodes, ones which have the aesthetics of a Christmas episode and or take place on or were otherwise released during the Christmas holidays, but whose plot and themes do not engage with Christmas beyond the most surface level. So consider the following. The Next Doctor takes place on Christmas and features one of those rousing speeches we love so much. But it was about the Doctor and his heroic deeds, not the spirit of humanity, the gift of giving, or peace and goodwill to humankind. This is a story about grief. Both the Doctor and Jackson Lake have lost everything before the episode, and while it ends with a heartwarming scene that I never get sick of seeing,
Jackson, if anyone had to be the Doctor, I'm glad it was you.
it is ultimately about processing grief, not Christmas. The end of time was partially released on and is set during the Christmas holiday, but it is a farewell story for David Tennant, RTD, and the rest of the production team, and has no time to be a Christmas episode. The Snowmen has killer snowmen, but it too was focused on the Doctor's isolation, setting up returning adversaries, and establishing a new companion, and wasn't able to do anything too Christmassy. The time of the Doctor takes place in a town called Christmas, but it's caught between the major highs and stunning revelations of the 50th anniversary on one side, and a paradigm-altering regeneration on the other. Plus, a town where everyone is nice and tells the truth doesn't sound like any Christmas function I've been to. The Husbands of River Song is only mentioned to take place on Christmas, but is ultimately about the Doctor and River's relationship. The Return of Dr. Mysterio is a Christmas episode for 5 minutes before becoming a Marvel parody. The Church on Ruby Road takes place on Christmas, but is too busy with goblins and introducing a new Doctor, companion, and season's aesthetic to be messing with Christmas themes. The only thing important about Christmas Day, as it relates to the plot, is it ties Ruby and Lulubelle together through coincidence, but any date that they shared in common would have worked as well for that without changing the story at all. Now, one I haven't placed in either one of these categories is Twice Upon a Time, and I need your help with this one because I'm not sure where it falls. On the one hand, it barely features Christmas or themes related thereto, but on the other hand, its resolution is based around the greatest Christmas miracle to ever occur not on 34th Street. The actual themes of the episode are that of identity. There are two versions of the Doctor on opposite ends of the regeneration spectrum, both denying the next phase of their life, all while a construct version of the companion tries to convince the Doctor that she is the real Bill. I'm not sure that this has anything to do with Christmas. I'm pretty sure it has mostly to do with a showrunner having anxiety about giving up the show and giving it to somebody else, but the ending certainly has a lot to do with Christmas. It uses the Christmas truce of 1914 to resolve the central conflict as well as the tension between the Doctors over their identity crisis. This ending is one of my favorites, and it's very affecting, but I just don't know if it's enough to call it a Christmas episode. My gut says that it's definitively Christmas coded, so I will put it there tentatively, but please get in the comments and tell me what the right answer is. That covers episodes that are Christmas related in some way, but there is one more distinction to make here, so let's talk about festive specials. As most of you probably know, Lucky Number 13 didn't have any Christmas episodes. She had specials still, but they were more like New Year's Day specials. As much as I do enjoy some of these episodes and parts of other of these episodes, we will largely be ignoring them for the rest of this video, and that is not me trying to be exclusionary. I am a Jodie defender. Anyone who's watched the channel for a while knows that. This is simply the outcome of them trying to write this season to be different, write this era to be different, and it is different, and that's great for them, but it makes it separate from the history and the traditions of the show, and that means that it doesn't have anything to contribute to this conversation about what precedents these kinds of episodes set. Not so fast, All Trades Jack. This is Editing Jack here, and I've just got to say, there is one potential prediction that we can make, which is that the 2026 Christmas special will have Daleks in it. I mean, if there's anything we can learn from the festive specials is when you've had a long period of no Daleks, Christmas or New Year's is the perfect time to bring them back. Okay, so now that we have separated these episodes into Christmas related, adjacent, and agnostic, can we make determinations about which category the 2026 special will fall into? Well, not quite yet. We need to go a little deeper and see how each of these episodes are placed in their series. For the category of placement, we have the distinctions of prologues epilogues and interludes. These shouldn't require too much explanation, but I'll break them down really quickly. Basically, every special takes place between seasons, or in some cases, in the split between an A-B season. But they can still be categorized broadly as beginnings, ends, and one-off adventures. The Christmas Invasion, Runaway Bride, The Snowmen, and The Church on Ruby Road all function as beginnings, or prologues to seasons, with major characters, concepts, and plot points being established. 3 of these introduced a companion, while the only one that didn't introduced a new doctor. On the other side of the coin, you have those episodes which serve as endings, or epilogues to stories, such as The End of Time, The Time of the Doctor, and Twice Upon a Time. All 3 of these episodes feature the death and regeneration of the Doctor, in addition to being the final outing for the current showrunner at the time for 2 of these episodes. Every remaining holiday special can be classified as an interlude, something which happens between adventures, that, while potentially impactful on later episodes, is not a major event in its own right. The Voyage of the Damned, The Next Doctor, A Christmas Carol, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, Last Christmas, Return of Dr. Mysterio, and Joy to the World all fall into this category. Eagle-eyed Whovians will have spotted the one that I missed, and again, it's a Capaldi episode, because they can be hard to place. It's almost as if they're nuanced. The Husbands of Rivers song is the last episode before a major refresh for the show. Earlier I said it was all about the relationship between the Doctor and River, but it was also about bringing River's story to its foretold end, so that the show could move into a new era where Stephen Moffat could release his old playthings at long last and tell a fresh story. My gut is that this episode belongs in the endings and epilogues category. But again, I need your help, so let me know what you think in the comments. Now that we have these episodes in some broad categories, what patterns emerge? Well, a few actually. For one, when the Doctor dies, we see the importance of Christmas in the narrative goes down across the board, almost all the way depending on how you place Twice Upon a Time. Companion introductions as well as Doctor introductions seem to be split on how Christmassy they can be, with Tan and Donna's debut being very Christmas heavy, while Clara and Ruby are Christmas light. If, however, we consider that the companion in The Snowmen isn't the real Clara, nor even Jenna Coleman's first appearance in the show, then it doesn't really work as a beginning, and we could instead think of it as an interlude, making Ruby Road the only anomaly here. So intro episodes can be Christmas heavy, unless they are like Ruby Road. So what is Ruby Road like? What is different about Ruby Road that means that it doesn't have time to be Christmassy where other intro episodes do? Well, it isn't just introducing Ruby, is it? It's also soft introducing number 15, Ncuti Gatwa, after his brief debut at the end of The Giggle, while also establishing the tone for a brand new series of the show, targeted at new audiences and a global market. This episode represented a major moment for the show and for the studios, and it seemed to overshadow the concerns for making a Christmas episode, maybe especially when you consider that global market. But this is important because we can now start to make some broad claims about what the 2026 special might have in store for us. Doctors leaving the show, changes of guard behind the scenes, and major changes to the status quo of the series that occur on Christmas cause their episodes to swing agnostic. So it doesn't matter if a new showrunner takes over, or if a different studio gets involved, or even if RTD stays on. Because this episode must serve as a conclusion to many hanging plot points and series arcs and establish trust in the brand again in order for it to be a success. This means it will either signal a major ending and serve as a swan song for this version of the show, or it will be a retake and a finale for the Disney era so that RTD can start fresh like Moff did after Twice Upon a Time. So whether it's a prologue or an epilogue may come down to all the behind the scene dealings, which we are not getting into here, but we don't have to know that in order to say that this episode is going to be Christmas agnostic. there would be some common goals and hurdles for anyone taking the next step with Doctor Who in 2027, and it all starts here. With so many loose ends, it's likely that one or more Doctor will have to die, or at least be made non-viable moving forward. So between Billie's iteration and 14, we're probably going to have a farewell. And if even one of the rumored returning Doctors is true, then there will be far too much going on in this episode for Christmas to serve as more than a backdrop. I think it's unlikely that any new companions will be set up either, unless done in a Donna Noble way, where there's a one-off companion that comes back a few rotations later. The only precedence for a Christmas Day intro to a new companion and a freshly regenerated Doctor was Church on Ruby Road, and it didn't have the pressure of a gap year and an uncertain future, or any returning faces from older episodes. So if I had to bet, I'd say we're not going to be getting a new companion as well as this new Doctor on Christmas. Gun stick to my head, if I had to guess, I would say there's an A plot, B plot, where we have the Doctor and Donna reuniting, that classic pairing to take the A plot, and the B plot would be Billie Piper's version of whatever character she is, goes to find the Doctor, finds instead Yasmin Finney's character. This works on several levels, because if this is the end for the Bad Wolf Studios era, then this becomes a metaphor as the Bad Wolf, Billie, passes the torch to Yasmin Finney, the new Rose, while herself redefining what it means to be the Doctor. You see the studio is literally giving the what it means to be the Doctor, what it means to be Rose, the companion, giving it to somebody else before moving on. So I could see that playing out, but those are just a few fun ideas. That's nothing proven. Those are just me playing with some ideas. What can we actually say about the episode? We know it's going to be religious and Christmas agnostic for the most part, but all the rest, that's speculation. What else can we say for sure? Well, forget about who plays who, or who comes back, or who's whose companion, or what kind of story it's going to be, or what kind of plot it's going to have. Let's talk more about the tone and the genre. Okay, if it's not going to be about Christmas, what is it going to be about? Well, again, it is hard to say without knowing for sure if it will be an epilogue or a prologue, but we know that it's not an interlude. That we can say pretty certainly with the strictest sense, because the stakes are too high to just be doing a one-off, we're running around having a good time, see you next week style adventure. So what can we see when observing these interlude episodes, and what do they have in common? Not a lot. They're all over the place, to be honest, but if we zoom out and look at tone and genre, a major pattern begins to stick out. Doctor Who is a family sci-fi adventure drama. So anything that strays too far from that, or from Christmas specifically, we will count as a deviation from what a Christmas special, or indeed a standard episode of Doctor Who, is expected to be. Not what it's capable of being, just what it's expected to be. So things like horror, there's plenty of Doctor Who episodes are horror, but you don't necessarily expect an episode to be horror. You definitely don't expect a Christmas episode to be horror. So let's go through them. There's the disaster epic, which is The Voyage of the Damned. There's the sci-fi fantasy of The Doctor, Witch, and the Wardrobe. There's the sci-fi horror that is Last Christmas, and the comic book action comedy that is The Return of Dr. Mysterio. And all of these are ones which we have categorized as interlude episodes. Now, barring variations in setting and their levels of sci-fi immersion and complexity, all of the prologue and epilogue Christmas specials fall into the general genre of family sci-fi adventure drama. All of the horror, all of the comic booky stuff, all of the things that you think of as weird off-the-wall picks, they're all interludes. When there's a big event happening, they don't have time for Christmas, and they don't have time for gimmicks. It's straight down the middle. So if this episode isn't going to stray from the genre conventions of a standard Doctor Who episode or lean heavily on the Christmas themes and iconography, what will it be doing? Well, science fiction, action, drama are the key words, and I think it comes down to how we think they will balance the three of those elements based on whether it ends up being a prologue or an epilogue. See, if RTD or even Bad Wolf stayed on to keep making the show, we would probably want to scale up the sci-fi element because they'll most likely contrive of some timey-wimey way to give themselves the cleanest slate they can that leaves them all of their best bits and none of their blunders to take into the future of the show. However, if RTD and or Bad Wolf Studios leave, we can assume they'll crank up the drama dial and we'll strap in for something akin to the farewell tour at the end of time. As to the scale of the adventure, well, that all comes down to the team at Bad Wolf and what mindset they go into this with. Oh, well, what do I mean by that? If they stay on to do the next series, it can't be some begrudging thing they do contractually. Or if they are leaving, it can't be something made in spite. So the behind the scenes stuff, again, it has the potential to play a part in determining exactly what we get. That said, though, I genuinely believe despite any stumbles or outright missteps, despite any background drama, I think Russell T Davies wants to leave the show better than he found it. And if there's any chance that this is the episode that could make or break the series, which it likely could, I think RTD will step up to the plate and bring it home for the team. If I know Rusty, and if any of my assertions thus far have been correct, I think we are in for a massive blockbuster event. It will be the culmination of the last 3.5 years as well as the last 20 years, truly. Meaning the drama and the emotional stakes of the episode will be high. For these reasons, it is likely to spend much of its runtime focusing on relationships and not on themes of Christmas. As the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, it will hold to the core of the show in tone and genre, not straying too scary, too silly, or too fantastical. The number of new concepts and characters will be limited unless it turns out that RTD continues with the show, but even then, we should expect to see little development in that area. We will likely say goodbye to at least one Doctor and get a glimpse at a new one, if only for a moment as they crash the TARDIS. Finally, we can expect to see a title card at the end that says, "The Doctor will be back," hopefully with an episode name, or a date, or at least a season, but we will all learn together where the show will take its next step. And now that I've outlined what makes a Christmas special, and what they are capable of being based on their placement in their series, it's time for me to test your knowledge and ask you the following question. What kind of Christmas special has this episode of Who Essays from the USA's been? An interlude capable of being hyper Christmas coded while playing in any genre at once? A prologue introducing new characters and concepts to prepare you for adventures to come? No, dear viewer, I'm sure you've already figured it out. This was an epilogue of my first season of Who Essays from the USA. I'll be taking a little break from long-form content from now until about the beginning of February, when Who Essays from the USA's returns, but I have 2 or 3 videos coming out between now and then for you to look forward to. Just after New Year's, I'll be dropping a WhoTube in review for 2025, as well as a little motivational video for all of you with big resolutions to fulfill in the new year. I'll be around the community as well. I know I see several of you in the comments of other videos, and hopefully if you've missed some videos that I've made in the recent history, you'll have a chance to catch up while I on my little break. There won't be any big call to action here. I just wanted to say I'm glad you all came. I hope that you will come to see the second season of Who Essays from the USA. If you choose to stick around and see some of the things that I'm doing over the next couple of weeks in the off season, that would be great too. But honestly, from here, I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me a great first season. We've had a lot of fun with these first few, made a lot of mistakes along the way, learned a lot of lessons, and hopefully season 2 will be even better. I'm already working up the scripts for them. Just because I'm not making any videos over the next month and a half, we're not publishing any videos, doesn't mean I won't be working on videos. I've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipelines. Some ones I'm really excited about sharing. Some that were supposed to come out this season that didn't, unfortunately, because I fell behind on the schedule, but they are still coming. So there's a lot to look forward to. And I hope to see you all in the new year for the new season. But in the meantime, from me to you, just wanted to say happy holidays and Merry Christmas to all of you. Thanks for coming out for this one. And I will see you all next year.
Like and subscribe, Doctor.
I certainly will. Merry Christmas to you, Jackson.
Merry Christmas indeed, Doctor.
He's been scheming for 60 years. Are you really surprised that he has a master plan? This makes no sense. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. It makes no sense. They prioritize us when it comes to selling us the product, yet they won't set us a seat at the table. You cannot simply say that it's a kid's show when there are literal cartoons that are more mature, relatable, and rooted in thematic storytelling. Cybermen, Daleks, Ice Warriors, you have to pick one. It can't be all of them. Now, where should we begin?